Demonstrations have begun to take shape at the Archives roundabout in Nairobi's Central Business District as young Kenyans mobilize under the hashtag Reject Fuel Prices, protesting a recent increase in fuel costs that has intensified economic pressure on households across the country. The early hours of Tuesday, April 21st, 2026 have seen a slow and a cautious emergence of the demonstrators in one of the Nairobi's most symbolic public spaces. At the Archives roundabout, small groups of young people have been spotted assembling in clusters. They hold Kenyan flags, they chant briefly, and then they disperse. The activity is measured, restrained, and far from the large-scale protests some had anticipated, and across the wider Central Business District, daily life continues with minimal interruption. Matatus move along their usual routes, private vehicles navigate the streets without major delays, and street vendors remain at their stations, serving customers as they would on any other day. Even the pedestrians stepping carefully over wet pavements after a light morning drizzle appear more focused on routine than resistance, and this contrast between pockets of protest and also largely functioning city defines the mood of the day so far. But beneath the surface, the issue driving these gatherings carries significant weight. The protests are a direct response to the decision by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority to increase the fuel prices, a move that took effect on April 16th and is expected to remain in place until May 14th. And for many Kenyans, the impact has been immediate, and high fuel costs have translated into increased transport fares. And the food prices are under pressure. Basic household expenses continue to rise, and for families already navigating tight budgets, the adjustment is being felt sharply. It is this trend that has pushed the Reject Fuel Prices message into the public space, first online and now cautiously onto the streets. The social media platforms have been flooded with reactions in the recent days, and many users describe the new prices as unsustainable, and others express concern about the broad economic direction. Yet while online sentiment has been strong, the physical turnout tells a more complex story. Part of the story lies on the events leading up to today, and on the eve of the planned demonstrations, Nairobi Regional Commander Issa Mohammed declared the protests unlawful. The reason given was procedural, and authorities cited the failure by organizers to provide the mandatory 14-day notice required under the Public Order Act. This declaration set the tone for heightened security preparations, and riot police units were positioned across the key areas of the city. Security presence was visible in the days leading up to the demonstrations, and while reports from the ground today indicate that police presence at the Archives roundabout remains minimal, the broader security posture has clearly influenced the atmosphere. There is caution, there is hesitation, and there is awareness. A major turning point in the early stages of the mobilization came with the arrest of activist Julius Kamau. Kamau, known for his advocacy on governance and also economic justice, was detained as demonstrations began to form, and his arrest has quickly become a focal point of discussion. Online platforms have seen a surge in debate, and questions are being raised about the space for dissent. Concerns are being raised and voiced about the handling of the public demonstrations. At the same time, security forces indicate that plainclothes officers are actively monitoring activity across key hotspots in the city. Their presence is not immediately visible, but it is deliberate, and it adds another layer of an already complex situation. Notably, at the time of reporting, there have been no deployments of water cannons or tear gas units at the Archives area. This absence of aggressive crowd control measures aligns with the relatively small and scattered nature of the gatherings. Still, the potential of escalation remains a point of attention, and opposition figures and grassroots activists had initially called for wider nationwide demonstrations. Key locations such as Archives, City Hall, and the Parliament had been identified as focal points, and the expectation in some quarters was for a broader show of public dissent. However, several factors appear to have tempered that outcome, and the police warnings have played a role. Security deployments have added a layer of deterrence, and in the morning rain has contributed to the slower mobilization. But perhaps most significant is public memory that many Kenyans recall past protests that escalated into violence, property destruction, clashes with police, disruption of livelihoods, and the the experiences continue to shape how people respond to calls for action. For some, the frustration over rising costs is undeniable, and commuters speak of increased fares that stretch already thin incomes. Workers worry about daily expenses. Families adjust budgets that were already under strain. Yet alongside that frustration is caution, a reluctance to step into situations that could quickly turn unpredictable. This divided sentiment is visible across the city, and on one side a growing call for accountability and relief, on the other a desire for stability and safety. For now, Nairobi stands in a moment of watchful waiting, and the demonstrations, though present, remain limited in scale, and the city continues to function. The tension, however, is unmistakable, and as the day progresses, attention turns to what comes next, with the scattered gatherings grow into a larger movement. Will more people join as the hours unfold? Or will the combination of official pressure, security presence, and public caution keep the demonstrations contained? These are the questions shaping the narrative of TuesdAY, and for authorities, the priority remains maintaining order, and for demonstrators, the focus is drawing attention to an issue that directly affects daily life, and for the wider public, the balance between expression and stability continues to define their response. In many ways, today's events reflect a broader national conversation, a conversation about cost of living, about economic resilience, about the relationship between citizens and the state. It is the conversation that is unfolding not just in the streets, but in homes, workplaces, and digital spaces across the country. And while the scenes at the Archives roundabout may appear modest, they carry significance beyond their size, and they signal concern, they reflect pressure, and they point to an issue that is unlikely to fade quickly. And as Nairobi moves through the day, all eyes remain on the streets, watching, waiting, measuring the next move. And in a city still on the move, the message is clear, the pressure is real, the voices are rising, and the nation is listening. That is all from Kenya Lens Media, at least for now. Kindly, if you're new here, consider subscribing, liking, and sharing our content. Hit the notification bell so that you can be receiving notifications each and every time we bring you new content.